She hammered on my door like she owned the whole block. Before I could even open it, I heard her yelling, "This man is trespassing! He doesn't belong here! Arrest him!" Two police cruisers pulled up with sirens still blaring. My heart sank for a moment because the crowd of nosy neighbors was already gathering, watching like I was some kind of criminal. Karen, the self-appointed HOA queen, was smirking, arms folded, acting like she had already won. I opened the door calmly and said, "This is my home. You don't have the right," but Karen cut me off, waving a stack of papers she had printed herself. "Here's the violation notice. He's not allowed on this property. Officers, take him out." The cops hesitated, glancing at the ridiculous HOA eviction order she shoved in their hands. One of them muttered, "Ma'am, this isn't a legal document." But Karen barked back, "Do your job! Remove him!" The tension was thick. I stayed quiet, biting back my anger, because I knew something Karen didn't. Just as one officer stepped forward like he was about to put cuffs on me, the front door creaked behind me. My wife stepped out, calm, sharp, and wearing her full uniform. The moment the badges on her chest caught the flashing red and blue lights, both cops froze mid-step. Karen's face turned red, but instead of backing down, she doubled her voice. "Don't just stand there! She's pretending! She's not real police! This man and his wife are squatters!" She pointed at us like we were thieves caught red-handed. The crowd murmured, some whispering, others recording with their phones. One officer cleared his throat and asked carefully, "Ma'am, you said you're with the department?" My wife didn't flinch. She reached into her jacket and handed him her official ID. The officer's eyes widened as he read it, then looked back at Karen with disbelief. "He's a federal officer," he said firmly. The entire street gasped, and the second cop took a full step back, clearly uncomfortable now. Karen's jaw dropped, but she quickly tried to recover. "That doesn't matter. HOA has rules everyone must follow. You can't just—" My wife cut her off cold. "Rules don't override the law. And what you're doing here, trespassing on our property, impersonating authority, filing a false report—" She let the words hang heavy in the air. Karen started trembling, but tried to laugh it off. You don't scare me. I'll call the HOA board. They'll have you thrown out tonight." I couldn't help but smile, because what Karen didn't know yet was that this wasn't the first time she'd tried something like this, and I had been waiting, with evidence, for her to cross the line. The crowd leaned in closer, phones still recording. Something told me Karen was about to get the shock of her life.
Karen's hands shook as she waved her fake notices in the air, trying to convince anyone who would listen. "He forged those deeds! He doesn't even pay HOA fees!" she screamed, her voice cracking. Some neighbors shifted uncomfortably, half believing her, half realizing they were watching her unravel in real time. That's when I stepped forward, calm but firm, holding up a small black folder I had kept tucked under my arm. "You want proof?" I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Here it is." I opened it slowly, revealing certified property documents with county seals shining under the streetlight. "This land isn't HOA property. It never was. I own it outright, down to the lake, the road, and every inch of dirt you're standing on." The cops leaned in to check, their eyebrows shut up. One of them looked at Karen. "Ma'am, this is legal. He owns the entire parcel." Karen's face went pale. No, that's impossible," she stammered. But before she could say more, my wife pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. A live video feed popped up, clear footage from our security cameras. Everyone saw Karen, just 2 nights ago, sneaking up to our porch with her little stack of fake notices, planting them like some authority. The crowd erupted with gasps and laughter. Someone shouted, "Karen, you're finished!" Karen tried to grab the phone, but the officer stepped between us. My wife's voice was ice cold. "You wanted to call the cops, Karen? Congratulations, they're already here." And from the way they were looking at her now, it was clear they weren't here for me. The lead officer's tone shifted completely. "Ma'am, step back." His hand hovered near his cuffs, and the crowd instantly grew louder, whispers turning into open laughter. Karen's bravado cracked. Her lips trembled as she looked around, realizing every neighbor's phone was aimed at her. You can't arrest me! I'm the HOA president!" she shouted desperately, her voice breaking. But the second officer raised an eyebrow and said flatly, "HOA president doesn't give you the right to impersonate law enforcement." Karen's eyes darted toward me, full of rage. "You think you've won? You think this changes anything? I'll sue you! I'll make your life miserable!" Before she could finish, my wife stepped forward, badge still gleaming under the cruiser lights. "You wanted to call the cops, Karen? Congratulations, they're already here." And from the way they were looking at her now, it was clear they weren't here for me. Karen's face went pale as the officers exchanged a look. The older one finally said, "Ma'am, we'll need you to come with us for questioning." She shrieked, pointing wildly at me. "You can't do this! I run this community! He's just some squatter!" But before she could finish, one of the neighbors shouted from the crowd, "You took $5,000 from me for a fake dock permit!" Another yelled, "You threatened to tow my car if I didn't pay your parking fine!" Voices erupted, anger spilling out now that the truth was exposed. Karen spun in circles, trapped by the very people she used to control. Her fake authority crumbled in seconds, and the officers tightened their stance. "Enough," the younger cop said firmly. "Turn around, ma'am." She gasped as the cuffs clicked onto her wrists, her eyes darting to me in pure hatred. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I stepped off the cabin porch, calm and steady. "No, Karen, the only thing I regret is not coming back sooner." The crowd cheered, their phones still filming, capturing the exact moment the self-proclaimed queen of the lake was led away. But deep inside, I knew this was just the beginning. If Karen had been bold enough to invent an HOA on my land, I had to wonder, who else was backing her up? Karen thrashed against the cuffs, her voice breaking. "You don't get it! I wasn't working alone!" The officers shoved her into the back of the cruiser, but that one sentence sent a ripple through the crowd. People exchanged nervous looks. I narrowed my eyes. "What do you mean, not alone?" Karen smirked through the window, her desperation turning into a twisted grin. "You think I was the only one making money off your land? You'll find out soon enough." The cruiser pulled away, leaving a heavy silence behind. Neighbors clustered around me, some apologizing, others angry. One man said, "If she had partners, maybe the whole board knew." Another added, "We've been paying thousands every year. Where did all that money go?" I glanced back at my cabin, the calm lake behind it glistening in the fading light. I said, "Don't worry. I'm not just the owner of this land. I have every right to demand answers, and I will." The younger cop stayed behind, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "Sir, if she's telling the truth, you may have stumbled onto something bigger than just a fake HOA. There could be officials tied up in this." I looked past him, at the neighbors who had lived under Karen's fake rule for years. Their fear had turned into something else, hope. I tightened my grip on the deed. Then it's time to clean house, because no one scams a man on his own land. The lake was quiet again, but I knew the real storm was just starting. I started pulling threads quietly. I called the county recorder, the sheriff, and the bank my HOA used, everything I could think of. And every call pushed me closer to the truth. The soup men weren't officials at all. They were hired by a shell company that got paid out of the HOA account. The more I dug, the uglier it got. Fake invoices, money moving to a post office box, and a name that kept showing up on every paper. Karen's lawyer, a man who had quietly handled dozens of HOA enforcements. I put it all together and made a plan that wasn't about shouting back at her. It was about showing the whole town exactly how deep her lies ran. I arranged a short public meeting at the community center, advertised as an HOA update, and told only two people, the sheriff and a local reporter who hated injustice. My wife smiled when I told her the plan. She had a small folder of her own with subpoenas and witness lists ready to hand out if needed. On the day, neighbors filled the folding chairs,
more curious than ever. Karen's supporters came grinning, thinking she would flip the script again. I sat quietly, opened my folder, and pushed one button on my phone. A slideshow filled the projector. Bank transfers, the fake notices with her handwriting, the security footage time-stamped and clear. The room went cold. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Then the sheriff stood up, walked to the front, and said 3 words that made 100 phones start recording at once. "We're seizing accounts." The look on Karen's face was priceless. She had gone from god of the cul-de-sac to a woman who could no longer hide. But as the reporter raised his hand to ask the first question, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You don't know the whole story. Stop now or we make sure you lose everything." My chest tightened. Someone else was still protecting her. Someone higher up and smarter than we'd thought. I leaned toward my wife and whispered, "This just got personal."